Hi, it's the great Vanzini. Needless to say, after something like that, I'm totally exhausted. Totally bushed. Of course, that wasn't me playing. That was somebody else entirely. Although I was pretending to play. I was air guitaring it. That was Gonzalo Bergera. And that's a song I created in Band in the Box. I just wrote in the chord structure and picked a guitar style, gypsy jazz, done by Gonzalo Bergera. And so I looked him up. There's all sorts of people in Band in a Box, musicians that contribute, and so I'd never heard of the guy. And I looked him up, and oh my gosh, if you want to really have a treat, look this guy up. Gonzalo B-E-R-G, I have it down G-E-A-R. I think I misspelled it, G-A-R-E, Bergera. And he plays not only gypsy jazz, but he plays rock and roll and stuff almost on like rockabilly on steroids or something like that. The guy's an all-arounder. Plays jazz, does blues, does he just does it all. And I am hung up. Anyway, today we're looking at the third and final, at least for the time being, jazz box, no cutaway at all. This is an Ibanez AF-84. I hope I have that right. And it was made in, you'll look it up on one website and it'll say it was made between 2004 and 2007. It wasn't. It was made for 1 year only. 2004, I believe. And it came with a pickup and it came with no pickup. And then at some later time they released it with actually, supposedly, I read a thing on one version that had 2 pickups. And so it's a limited edition Ibanez Artcore AF-84. And it's not that thick. I don't remember how thick it's like. Oh, that's the other thing. If you look it up on the internet, there's one site that says it's like 3.5 inches deep. Yeah, 2 3/4 from the outsides. It seems not that thick at all. And it's a 24.5 inch scale with 22 frets. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep, 22 frets. And heavily lacquered. I mean, just let me show you. I can reflect it in the ring light there. Heavily dipped in polyurethane or something. But it plays really well. It plays like any other Artcore. You would think that it's a limited edition. It would be of some value, but you can actually, when you don't find them very often. I looked on Reverb. There's none on Reverb right now. There's none at Guitar Center used. I think there was one on eBay, maybe something like that. And there was one, the one that was on Reverb had just sold, and it was sold in my neighborhood, oddly enough, right here in Salem. So acoustically, it's not a great guitar compared to the ones I reviewed earlier, the Washburn and the Godin. The Godin sounds much better than any of them acoustically. This just doesn't have much tonality at all. Of course, I do have flat wounds on it, which are kind of makes them a little bit more dead. But it doesn't, even through an amp, it doesn't have even through an amp, it doesn't have, it's got a fairly even tone from treble to bass. It's not very bassy. Some guitars you have to just use an EQ with to kind of balance out the bass between the bass and the treble. You tame one down and you got too much treble, you tame the treble down, you got too much bass. So you use an EQ pedal and you come out just fine. This is fairly evenly balanced, although I wouldn't call it a great, it's an evenly balanced but not a great tone. So how's that for odd? Well, it shows it just short of 16 inches. That's hard to believe. It doesn't seem as big as the Washburn. In the same price range, you'd find these used in the $300 to $400 range, I think, right now. So this is how you make a cheap guitar really expensive. I buy this from a guy on eBay at a discounted price of $300 and some when they first came out. And he warned me, he said, these are coming straight from the factory, so we haven't done anything to them. And he was a guitar store in the Midwest selling on eBay, and he had never sold on eBay, and so he was very worried about it. And so he thought he would stick his toe in the water with just one guitar, this guitar right here, and wanted to see how it worked, basically. And so he sold it to me. I got it for a discount, and we had a good deal. When I got it, he was right. It came right from the factory. And sometimes with the Ibanez, they come right from the factory. This was in terrible shape, and I've had one other one straight from the factory. The fretwork on this was just, the fret sprout was terrible, so were the frets. I had a guy, I sent it to a local luthier in town that does really good work, and I think he's retired now. And he did all the fretwork on both sides for the fret sprout, and he actually polished up, maybe even crowned some of the frets, as I recall. And he replaced the bridge with a different, still an inexpensive bridge, but a better one than what came on it. And he made a neck adjustment, and he liked it a lot, to the point where he said, if you ever want to sell it, please call me first. And anyway, I think I forgot to tell the rest of the story. Sorry, I got the fan running. It's like 83 degrees in here. So it was $150 to get all the fretwork done, the bridge, the neck, the truss rod fixed up, everything intonated properly, which wasn't bad. I mean, I didn't mind paying it. But all of a sudden, that 300, and I think they were going for 400, 425, and I got it for 375 from the guy on eBay. And it wasn't his fault. He was real honest that, you know, it was in right from the factory, and they sometimes come in rough shape, and it wasn't the first Ibanez I'd had. I mean, you would have cut your fingers on the fret sprout. And so this guy made it, you can't feel anything on there at all. I mean, it's just smooth as butter. So 150 to 375, that makes it 550, like that. Then I decided it was nice enough. I didn't want to bust it up in a gig bag or anything, so I got a hard shell case, and that was $125. So by the time I was done, I was like $650, something like that, $675. And that's how you take a cheap guitar and make it really, really expensive. And even with a hard shell case, I've bashed it somewhere along the line. So anyway, they play nice. They actually sound nice amplified. Acoustically, they're terrible. It is kind of a rare bird. I have seen in person one other one, who oddly enough was a guy I took jazz lessons from, a very highly thought of jazz teacher. And I only took for a very short time, but I saw him later playing in a band. I don't have it EQ'd going through the E band at all, so it sounds much bassier through the E band than it really sounds. It sounds very much, I don't know how to describe it, just a mid-tone kind of quality to it. So sounds good, it plays good, everything about it's good. It's just not up to the sound-wise, construction-wise. I wouldn't know one from another. It feels as well built as any of them. This has a floating pickup, which I tend to not like, and that's the case here. That's it. I can't tell you anything more. If you've played an Artcore, you've played this guitar basically, except this just is a no cutaway, and that's the only difference. And so they did make them for 1 year. One thing way back when I saw, they only made 250, and then later I read that said no, they made 500, and then another one said no, they made 750. So they probably made around 1,000. Who knows? And they also made it, as I said earlier, without a pickup. It's just a strummer. I would not buy one of those. I don't see this, although it would last a lifetime and then some, because they're dipped in in varathane, in polyurethane, or whatever it is they use. And it's probably not going, unless you just take it right out in the sun and play it. I don't think it's gonna ever give up. Let's take you out of here on this. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you want, you can subscribe, give a thumbs up, give a thumbs down, leave a comment. I know some of you have expressed interest in knowing about jazz boxes. It even looks smaller on the front bout, you know, that it looks smaller than the I haven't compared them side by side, so I don't know. It's got total shellac on the back of the neck, which I'm bit by bit starting to not like. But we'll see. Here's something, I don't know what.